Welcome to this explainer. Before we even really get started, I want you to take just a second and think about how incredibly weird it is that you are experiencing this content right now. Seriously, you aren't just processing audio and visual data like a laptop or a smartphone. There is an actual, undeniable feeling of being you, sitting there, taking in the sound of my voice. That invisible inner life is arguably the greatest mystery in the entire universe. So today, we're going to explore the whole shebang by looking at consciousness, what it is, why we have it, and how it actually works. Okay, let's dive right in by asking the single most fundamental question about human existence. What is it like to be you? I mean, it sounds like a deceptively simple question, right? But it's actually the ultimate hook that keeps scientists and philosophers up at night. Because here's the thing, I can observe your behavior all day long, but I can never, ever actually feel what it's like to be you from the inside. To start making sense of this, we have to realize that consciousness isn't just one single thing. It's really a massive umbrella term. It covers everything from simply being awake, which philosophers call creature consciousness, to being aware of a specific object, known as transitive consciousness, like, say, seeing a car or hearing a bird chirp. It also includes state consciousness, which is whether your specific beliefs or desires are accessible to you or just buried deep in your subconscious. And finally, there's phenomenal consciousness. That's the really deep philosophical aspect of what it actually feels like to have an experience. To prevent cognitive overload, we're going to use this quick roadmap for our explainer. First, the descriptive question of what consciousness is. Second, the explanatory question of how it works. And third, the functional question of why we have it. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the descriptive question, focusing on what consciousness actually is. So, researchers have mapped out 7 key features that basically weave together to form your waking life. We're looking at things like qualitative character, phenomenal structure, subjectivity, self-perspectable organization, unity, intentionality, and a dynamic flow. Think of it like a continuous stream of information that perfectly binds all your senses into one highly unified picture, all happening from your completely unique point of view. Let's anchor one of those abstract ideas, specifically the qualitative character, or qualia, into a real, everyday sensory experience. Imagine biting into a super sweet piece of pineapple, or looking at a vibrant, bright red tomato. That specific, undeniable sensation of sweetness on your tongue, or the intense redness hitting your eyes, that is qualia. It's that raw, indescribable quality of an experience that goes way beyond just biological data processing in your brain. And that brilliantly illustrates our next major feature, subjectivity. The philosopher Thomas Nagel famously hit the nail on the head with this. He pointed out that because bats navigate the world using echolocation, which is a sense we literally don't have, we can never truly understand the world from a bat's first-person perspective. We could study their brains under a microscope for decades, but we are never going to know what it actually feels like to be a bat. Moving right along to section 2, the explanatory question. Let's see how this all builds into a massive scientific tension. So this tension pits 2 very different concepts against each other. First, you have what philosopher David Chalmers coined as the easy problems. Now, easy is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. This involves explaining complex brain mechanics, biological functions, and how our brains access information. It's tough, but standard neuroscience can handle it. Pitted against that, though, is the hard problem. This is the monumental challenge of explaining exactly how physical matter, like the wet tissue and electrical impulses inside your skull, actually manages to create invisible subjective feelings. And this brings us right to Joseph Levine's concept of the explanatory gap. Basically, this is our current profound inability to find any intelligible link between brain activity and lived experience. I mean, ask yourself, how on earth can we make something conscious out of building blocks that are absolutely not conscious? Neurons, cells, atoms, they don't have feelings. So how does arranging them in a specific pattern suddenly generate the rich inner world you're experiencing right this very second? To highlight just how completely baffling this gap is, philosophers often use the zombie thought experiment. Picture a creature that is physically identical to you, atom for atom. It walks like you, talks like you, maybe even scrolls mindlessly on its phone, just like you do. But inside, the lights are completely off. It completely lacks phenomenal consciousness. Is a creature like that logically possible? It's a wildly thought-provoking scenario that forces us to question if the physical laws of nature alone are enough to explain our inner life, or if consciousness is just an entirely different ballgame. Finally, let's pivot to section 3, the functional question. Let's step into the evolutionary realm and explore why this inner life developed in the first place. So, if consciousness isn't just some bizarre cosmic accident, it has to serve highly adaptive evolutionary roles. It might grant us flexible control to ditch robotic routines for new, novel choices, or social coordination, allowing us to understand that other people have minds too. It could be for integrated representation, tying sight and sound into one picture, or for informational access across our mental systems. It could even provide intrinsic motivation, using the power of pleasure and pain to keep us alive. Ultimately, it might just be the very foundation of our freedom of will, allowing for genuine self-determination. Those potential functions sound absolutely crucial, right? Well, hold on, because this sets up the grand climax of our explainer. Some scientists and philosophers look at all of that and ask a pretty shocking question. Does consciousness actually do anything at all? Do your internal feelings actually drive your behavior, or are they just along for the ride? It's a massive ongoing debate between two main theories. On the left, we have epiphenomenalism, which suggests consciousness is causally inert, meaning your subjective feelings are just a byproduct of unconscious brain processing, kind of like the heat radiating off a light bulb or a computer screen displaying a printout of work the processor already finished. In this view, your consciousness doesn't cause anything. But on the right, in direct contrast, is causal status. This is the view that our consciousness actively determines our choices and directly impacts physical events. So the debate is literally about whether we are active agents shaping reality or just completely unconscious mechanisms experiencing a delayed, magnificent illusion of control. All of this analysis brings us to a really profound realization. We are faced with the ultimate paradox. The very tool we are using to understand consciousness is consciousness itself. The self-organizing, dynamic flow of our minds is quite literally trying to step outside of itself to solve the riddle of its own existence. Mind-bending, isn't it? So, as we wrap up our roadmap of the what, the how, and the why, I want to leave you completely fascinated by the mystery sitting right behind your own eyes. If our rich inner lives, the vivid colors we see, the sharp pains we feel, if all of that truly does arise from a collection of completely non-conscious atoms, where does the sheer mystery of your free will truly reside? Keep that in mind the next time you consciously decide to do absolutely anything.